Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and we are back with our top 100, this time going through 60 through 51. This is the fifth video in the series, and the last of the top half of the top 100, I guess. After this, we're down to the bottom half of the top 100. That's how numbers work. There's a top half, a bottom half, and we're about to hit the very end of the top half. If you missed it already, there are 4 more videos in the series. You can go ahead and check them out. This is the top 100 games of all time as of 2024. The way I put together these videos is I derank all my games, then I go ahead and I re-rank them into my 5s, 4.5s, etc. Then I use PubMeeple to go ahead and sort within the rankings, followed by a manual ranking, so I can go ahead and make sure everything lines up with exactly how I currently see it. This is based on right now. This is not based off of the bestness of a game across all time. This is based on how I feel about a game currently with all the experience I have and have not had with that game, where I currently want to play these games the most, and the games that currently spark the most joy. Before I dive into the list, a little reminder that I am running a support drive for the channel. If you appreciate the 700 plus videos I put up on the channel every single year, you can go ahead and check out that video to possibly support me over on Ko-Fi, Patreon, or YouTube members, while also being eligible to get a bunch of free games that are in that video. I'll link to that down below. And with that, let's go ahead and start with our number 60. Number 60 is one that I do not play nearly enough as much as I'd like to, but it's a great game when I do, and that is Rum Bones, the Iron Acquisition. That's the expansion. That's the expansion. Rum Bones 2nd Edition from CMON Games. This is a MOBA style game. It's a MOBA style game, a game that a concept you've seen in things like Cloudspire, and what's that other one? Skytier. The Skytier. There's Guards of Atlantis. There's a few games out there that have that MOBA style gameplay. In fact, Primal, which is one of my favorite games, the creators of Primal have a previous game that was also a MOBA style game. Never actually played that one. Don't know why I'm bringing that up. But this is a MOBA style game. You're going to have heroes, you're going to have minions, and your goal is to try to level up your heroes and power them up so you can eventually get strong enough to actually go head to head with the opposing heroes and take them out without being overwhelmed by all the various things in your way. The game gives a ton of characters, all with fun abilities that are fun to level up, to utilize, to try to figure out your unique competition, your team framework as far as how you're going to take down the other team. You have specific aspects to your faction as well. You're trying to go across these various pirate ships and take down your opposing, things, masts and rudders and all these various elements of the opposing ship. But it's a fun MOBA style gameplay with housing abilities, excellent gameplay, and one that I should play more often than I do. And that's my number 60 over here. 59 is going to be the only one that is truly new to this list. In this top 10 over here, in this specific top 10, not top 100, in this specific area of this, in this 60 through 51, we have 1.5 games that are new to the list. And if you're like, Alex, how can you have 1.5 new games? It'll make sense when we get to it. That's going to be my number 53, 54, I think 53. I think 53 will be the 1.5. But no looking at timestamps down below, that's cheating. Although you could, of course, look at timestamps down below. I can't stop you. You can also skip ahead in the video. There's lots of things you can do. I really can't stop you here. I kind of tied my own hands when I decided to go ahead and list all the names of the games in the top 100. Anyways, anyway, number 59 is the one that is truly new to this list, and that's Spectacular from Chili Fox. Spectacular is another one of those games that lets you score a bunch of points by doing a bunch of things better than the opposing players. There's a lot of games that do that, but it kind of falls into that Cascadia, Calico, Harmonies, all that kind of general vibe of gameplay. But I love what Spectacular does because it gives you drafting, which is one of my favorite mechanics, if not my favorite mechanic, combined with that point scoring optimization, build out your own tableau gameplay. So it kind of combines a game type that I like with drafting that usually isn't in that kind of game. And it does that by kind of giving you a tile with various dice and tiles on it, and that tile gets passed around, and every round you're taking something from your own personal supply and something from the tile. Do that across, I think, 15 turns if I'm not mistaken, and that means you're going to have 30 total items you add to your tableau, from dice to the tiles, and you're trying to basically build a zoo and score for a whole bunch of things. From the number of unique animals you have, there's a whole bunch of scoring things, from the values on the dice multiplied by the number of fertile animals. I'm not entirely sure what the representative is it pregnant animals? I'm not entirely sure what the representative is, but there is a point scoring multiplier that will give you a bunch of points. There's going to be unique scoring goals in the game that will give you different things to shoot for every time you play, but that's basically Spectacular. A fun point scoring optimization, tile laying, tile laying game, and try to score as many points as possible. I love this one. I find it I haven't even played the solo mode. I've heard good things about the solo mode. I haven't tried it. I like the competitive mode of this game. It's very easy to table, plays well at a variety of player counts. I think it plays best at the 3 to 4 range, but it does work well at all the way up. I believe 6 players is the max, if I'm not mistaken. 6 players, 1 to 6 players. Haven't tried 1, haven't tried 6. I think I've tried 2 through 5 if not mistaken, and 3 to 4 would be my favorite player counts. That's spectacular. Coming in at 58, we have a big box game that has dropped a little bit for me since last year. This was much higher last year, but this is Oathsworn. Now, Oathsworn is still an excellent game. Oathsworn's a fantastic game experience that's going to give you, well, a giant dungeon crawl, not really dungeon crawl, boss battler. It's a boss battler game with, I guess, skirmish elements to a degree, as well as the campaign progression of it. All of it combines to give you a game that is best in class in kind of the combination of all the things it does well. It does incredibly well as far as giving you a nice engaging story with semi-choose-your-own-adventure elements. I say semi-choose-your-own-adventure because I do know that some people have complained that it doesn't feel quite as choose-your-own-adventure. It is more linear even when it feels like it's not. But outside of that, the gameplay is great, the characters are great, the story is great, the feeling and immersion in the world is great. It does a great job on all of those fronts, giving you one of the better boss battlers campaign games in the genre, and that is Oathsworn from Shadowborn Games, my number 58. My number 57 is another big box game that I kind of finished and is here anyway, which I'll explain more shortly. That's heavy boxes, man, these heavy boxes. Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West is my 57. Now, I've already played through the full Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West. It's a legacy game, which kind of puts it in a weird class for me. Legacy games in general, honestly, any game that doesn't really have a continuation or reason to keep playing is always tricky as far as my top 100 because of the way I categorize my top 100. They're based on my excitement to play those games now, which is less exciting when you finish the game and aren't going back to it. The trick is that Ticket to Ride, Legends of the West, I absolutely plan on going back to, so it's totally here. I should note this is a good time to give a special mention to games like Pandemic Legacy, where I've played through Pandemic Legacy Season 1 twice, Seasons 2 twice, and Season 0 one time. That's 5 playthroughs of a game that only has 3 seasons of it. I've played through Charterstone twice, I played through Rise of Queensdale, and I plan on playing through that again. Don't know if it'll be top 100 material. But legacy games are a fascinating class unto themselves that I've gotten a lot of excellent gameplay out of. As much as I don't finish as many campaign games as I would like, I finished nearly all the legacy games I've played, and many of them I've gone through multiple times. I've played and Legacy twice. There's so many of these games that I dive into a second time. My City I've played who knows how many times, like 8 times I've played My City. The Ticket to Ride, Legend of the West, excellent game experience that really delivers on the Ticket to Ride experience, giving you this map that you're going to be building out and adding rules and mechanics as you go. And it gives you that one more game feeling across the 12 games, and I plan on playing through this again properly. Not properly, first time it's properly as well, but I plan on giving this another full playthrough when I have a chance, which is why it's my number 57. My number 56 is a great game that I've played more on the app than the real game, but when I do get the table in real life, it is incredibly satisfying because it is a better experience in real life than it is on the app. That's not entirely true. People would debate that. The app takes away lots of the maintenance of it, but I think the in-person experience, you can't beat that to an extent. And that's Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization. From CGE, Czech Games Edition, designed by Vlaada Chvátil, this is one of the best games of all time, both according to my own personal list over here, but also according to the BGG Top 100, which I believe has 2 versions of Through the Ages in the Top 100. This game has gone through multiple iterations of it. This is the current, most recent iteration. I also have the Leaders and Wonders expansion in here, but it's basically a civ building game. There's a bunch of civ building games out there. There's Clash of Cultures, there's Sid Meier's Civilization, but the best one, in my opinion, is Through the Ages, A New Story of Civilization. It's going to give you action selection, action economy, as you try to buy cards that you're going to add to your engine. Cards that will improve the various things you can produce, from basic resources to science to culture and all those things in the game, but also cards that will give you one-time benefits, military advantages, leaders for your civilization. You constantly have to choose which cards are the most important to you at any given point because the card row is constantly moving and you have only so many actions to try to figure out which cards you want before somebody else is going to come along and take those cards from you next turn. Through the Ages is an incredible civilization building experience that I recommend playing, whether you play it in the actual physical game, whether you play it in the app, whether on Steam or on your phone, whatever it is. All of them are going to give you an excellent implementation of one of the best civilization games that I have ever played. That is Through the Ages, our number 56. At 55, we have a game that's been on the top 100 for a while now. So is this one for that matter. This has actually been in my collection again. I mentioned a few videos back, like some games have been in my collection for 10 plus years. I'm pretty sure Through the Ages have been, I'm like 99% sure Through the Ages have been in my collection for at least 10 plus years. The rest of these, perhaps not. Not the rest of these, not the rest of those. This is the only one from the top 10 over here that would be in my collection for 10 plus years. But My number 55 is still an excellent game, a two-player game from Capstone, and this is Watergate, designed by Matthias Kramer. Watergate is a two-player game simulating the press versus Nixon as you try to go ahead and, depending which side you're on, you're either trying to escape the press tracking down the connection between various witnesses and Nixon, or alternatively trying to track them down, depending on which side you're doing. Players are going to be trying to engage in a tug-of-war. You're going to be playing cards that either give you straight action points or give you events, but will possibly take that card out of play for better or for worse, as you try to kind of reverse deck build your own deck, using the right cards at the right times, fighting over the right things in the right ways, because every single round you're fighting over momentum, you're fighting over initiative. Momentum is going to be how Nixon wins, initiative is going to be who goes first each round, and then you're fighting over the evidence, which, depending on the side that gets it, can either be used to block evidence connections or enforce evidence connections between the various key witnesses and Nixon himself. And you're trying to master that little pinboard as far as making sure you have or have not those connections, again, depending on which side you are, which forces a delightful tug-of-war that every single turn is going to force you to choose what is the most important thing to you right now, because everything is important, and you, again, have only limited bandwidth to actually chase everything that is important. Our number 54, 3, 2, 1. 54. Our number 54 over here is Valeria Card Kingdoms. Valeria Card Kingdoms is one that has continuously grown for me over the years. This is not the best game by any means. This is a Catan-style kind of knockoff game where you roll dice and then everyone gets stuff. There are many games like this. There's Valeria Card Kingdoms, there's Catan, there's Space Base, there's that criminal one. What's that criminal one called? Bad Company. There's a bunch of games that basically have you roll dice. There's Machikoro, roll dice, and everyone gets things. For whatever reason, Valeria has consistently remained my favorite in that gameplay genre. I have the game, I have all the expansions, I have the cooperative expansion as well, the solo/cooperative, which is another fun way to play the game in case you either don't have anyone at the table or just want a different way to play through it. And all of them add to the game, well, some more so than others. You can check out my full 12x12 review on this game, but they all give you a ton of things to think through. Well, that's not true. Let me take a step back. I've been talking too much about some of these games over here. Valeria is a fun game. That's what it is. It comes down to, this is a fun game. You're going to be choosing which various citizens to add to your tableau, which various domains to go ahead and chase, and whether you're trying to chase domains or fighting monsters, or how you're going to be getting your source of points. How much do you lean into your inherent duke to try to get extra points for whatever things they want? You're constantly choosing between different things, but this is not a game that you get because you're looking for that heavy, crunchy, meaty experience. This is a game you get because you want to do fun things. You want to roll dice, earn stuff, build an engine that makes you earn more stuff, and then whoever wins in the game wins, but you have done a whole bunch of stuff that have given you more stuff, better than the other players, or just good on its own as you go through the game. Combine great art from the Mitcho, combined with a lot of things you're trying to choose to do on your turns. Whether you play with the Crimson Seas expansion, which I think really adds a lot to the gameplay, whether you play at the base game and some of the modules that should give you more variety, or whether you play it solo or cooperative, this is a game that's going to give you a lot of gameplay and a lot of fun moments. It's just fun moments. This is just get resources. Like, you'll end the game with hundreds of resources. One of the complaints against this game, a reasonable complaint against the game, is that there's resource overload. You don't actually feel starved. And that's true. Much of the time, you're not starved for resources, but it's about where those resources go that is going to be the challenge, and depending on what you're doing, especially if you're going with a strong monster fighting approach, you may well be starved at the right resources or at the wrong time. So there's a lot going on in the game, but ultimately, to me, Valeria is a game that I love just because of the fun of the experience. My number 53 over here is going to be the half new game. You see, my number 53 is going to be shared between Seven Wonders Duel, and I'm sure you figured this out by now, but Lord of the Rings: The Duel for Middle-earth. This is my 73. This has been in my top 100 before. This is new to the list because it's a new game, but I do quite like it. You see, Seven Wonders Duel is a two-player version of Seven Wonders that forces a tug-of-war between the players, and it's a game that's over time has changed. I used to always like Seven Wonders more than Seven Wonders Duel, but Seven Wonders is not in my top 100 right now. It has been in my top 100 at times, and I could see it being there again, but Seven Wonders Duel has continued to hold up, where Seven Wonders has kind of stayed a little bit the same. See, the more I played Seven Wonders Duel, the more I dove into the various expansions, the more the gameplay shone. I prefer the clean drafting of Seven Wonders, but there's a lot more going on with Seven Wonders Duel, especially as you add more expansions to it. Ultimately, in Seven Wonders Duel, you're fighting over 3 main victory conditions: science, military, or points, and then you're trying to, well, add expansions that give you more things to consider, gods to engage with, an entire council. There's things that will be added that give you more gameplay ways to win the game, but just more resources and options at your disposal. And you're trying to choose, again, like some of these other games, like Watergate, like Through the Ages, you're trying to choose what you think matters most because you have to make hard decisions, and often whatever you don't choose may well end up in your opponent's side, so you're trying to think through what is most advantageous for you. Second one is Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth over here. Takes that same core gameplay concept. The boxes, I need a better insert for this. Every time I put it on its side, all the cards get completely messed up. I think I need to throw out the insert and bag it. I hate it, but I think I have to do that. Anyways, Lord of the Rings Middle-earth Duel over here takes the core gameplay concept of Seven Wonders Duel, but then it builds it into the Lord of the Rings universe. In this game, you're either chasing over the ring, you're chasing over the sway of the nations of Middle-earth, or you're chasing over actual control of the various nations of Middle-earth. Those are your 3 victory conditions. It takes the basic gameplay, it keeps it very thematic to the Lord of the Rings universe, and it gives you a slightly, I would say it's slightly more accessible than Seven Wonders Duel, while having slightly less depth. I'd have a hard time telling you which of these games is better. I think it's better depending on who you are as a player. If you aren't someone who cares about the Lord of the Rings franchise, I'd recommend you start with Seven Wonders Duel. If you are someone who appreciates the Lord of the Rings franchise, I recommend you start with the Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. But either way, both are fantastic gameplay experiences. My number 52 is Revive. New to the list as of last year, not this year, Revive from Porta Games is a delightful, crunchy Euro game, medium weight, trending towards heavy, I'd say. Maybe just medium plus. Well, I guess medium plus is trending towards heavy. But Revive is a Euro game that's going to have you scavenging for artifacts that some alien civilization left behind. Honestly, I think that's the theme. I don't entirely know for sure, but I will say, play this game to the soundtrack of Man of Steel. I think they work so well together. I think it's incredible. Anyways, Revive, just soundtrack recommendations. I should do a top 100 soundtrack recommendations. That would be an interesting video. Maybe just top 10. Anyways, we have Revive over here. Revive from Porta Games gives you a lot to think about as you try to build your engine in this game and as you try to clear your own board of all these little there's no way to explain this easily. You're gonna have a map. You're gonna have a map in the board over here. This is like the map you're playing with over here, and you're going to be trying to like spread out all your influence in different ways. You're gonna be playing with asymmetric civilizations, and you're trying to get your people out, but also your buildings out, and those will all score you things in different ways. Honestly, everything you do in this game is going to score you points in different ways, but a lot of it is about the cards you're going to have. There's a little bit of not really deck building, I guess it's a little deck building, hand management building. You are building the cards that will go into your hand that will be able to cycle into play and figuring out which cards will go in different ways to be able to cascade different bonuses. Because as you play cards to different slots, depending on the various tokens you have in those slots, you'll be able to get more or less done. There's so much going on in this game. The expansion is a pretty good expansion. I think that I wouldn't always play the expansion every time, but I think the expansion adds enough extra weight to the gameplay experience without being too much rules overhead that it is one I would recommend picking up, but I do not think it's essential to appreciating the base game of Revive. But Revive is my number 52, an excellent medium plus Euro game in my collection that I've thoroughly enjoyed ever since last year and still enjoying it right now. And then my number 51 has dropped a little bit. I think it was like 27-ish last year, so it's gone down like 20 spots, but it still is excellent. And that is Paris La Citadelle from Devere Games. I will say, more so than any other of the top 100 so far, I think this has the most 2-player games. Like, Rum Bones is basically 2-player. We have Rum Bones, we have Paris, we have Lord of the Rings Duel, and Watergate. That's like, what, 4? 1, 2, 3... Four 2-player games, specifically in this particular section. I don't know if that will be beaten or not. I do appreciate a good 2-player game. But Paris La Citadelle from Devere over here. Devere is a fantastic publisher, and this to me is still my favorite game from them. I'm pretty sure it's my favorite game from them, which means you probably won't expect to see more Devere games in my top 100. At least not this year. But Paris is a 2-player polyomino game that takes place in 2 phases, which is why I love this game. Because in each phase, you're balancing 2 different things. Phase 1 is a combination between drafting the polyominoes you're going to place, and each one you don't place is going to be negative points. But it's also going to be where you lay out the map, placing your own little tiles onto the board that define the map sections, because each tile you put down can either be placed by you, or the other person, or a combination of both. There's different terrain types, and you're trying to be mindful of where you place different tiles down so that you can get as much placement out of it, but that means you're constantly choosing, do I want that polyomino, or do I want to create the spot for that polyomino that make my opponent take that polyomino? But if I take the polyomino first, he might take the spot that lets me place the polyomino. There's a nice tension in the first half of the game. The second half of the game is where you get to either place the polyominoes or benefit from the abilities in play. There's going to be a variety of abilities, and the expansion adds a bunch more. I do recommend the expansion a lot, especially for variety's sake, and they're going to have these 8 abilities that are in play, and you can only use 4 of these abilities. And so you're trying to choose between placing polyominoes or taking abilities, but if you take that ability, I can't take that ability, but if I place this polyomino, then I get first placement here, and if I don't, you'll take that spot, and it's next to all these lanterns that are worth extra points. And so everything you do in both halves of the game that are both divided up between 2 different things you're trying to do, it forces you to constantly choose what you think is the most important combination of everything that's going to result in you having more points than your opponent. If you like games like Patchwork, this is a game design that's worth checking out, but it can be significantly more mean and cutthroat than Patchwork ever had a chance to be. I do recommend it because of that, but it's something you definitely want to be mindful of as far as deciding whether it's a right fit for you. And that is my top 100, specifically 60 through 51. We'll be back with the top 50 in tomorrow's video. And until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you appreciate this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.